The sun dipped low over Savannah, casting a warm glow across the historic district. I stood in my kitchen, the heart of our home, surrounded by the familiar scents of simmering gumbo and fresh cornbread. My husband, Tom, was working late again, a frequent occurrence that left me with an unsettling quiet. It wasn't unusual for me to find solace in our routine, preparing dinner, tidying up, but lately, something had shifted. Jack, my brother-in-law, had come to visit more often. His charm was undeniable. He had a way of lighting up the room with laughter and stories that made even the mundane feel special. I appreciated his company more than I should have. He was here to help with some renovations around the house while Tom worked long hours at his law firm. Each time Jack stepped through our door, I felt a flutter of excitement mixed with guilt. One evening, as I chopped vegetables for dinner, I overheard Tom on the phone with Jack in the next room. Their conversation drifted through the air like the sweet scent of magnolias outside. "Family loyalty is everything," Tom said firmly. "You know that." Jack's response was muffled but laced with an undertone that caught my attention. It was as if he were weighing his words carefully. The power flickered and then went out entirely, plunging the house into darkness. The storm outside raged on, rain pounding against the windows like a persistent reminder of nature's unpredictability. I stood still for a moment before deciding to light some candles and set them on the kitchen table. "Looks like we're in for a long night," Jack said as he stepped into the dimly lit room. "Just us and candlelight," I replied lightly, trying to mask my growing unease. The atmosphere shifted. Without electricity or distractions, we were left alone with our thoughts. As we worked together to prepare dinner by candlelight, an unexpected warmth enveloped us both. We shared stories about our childhoods, Tom's family gatherings filled with laughter and chaos, and found ourselves laughing at shared memories. The tension between us crackled like static electricity in the air. "Do you remember that summer at Grandma's?" Jack asked suddenly, his eyes sparkling in the flickering light. "Yes. You nearly set fire to her kitchen trying to make toast." I laughed softly, recalling how we'd both been scolded for our mischief. Jack leaned closer as he spoke, his voice low and engaging. "I always admired how you handled everything back then, so calm and collected." His compliment hung in the air longer than expected. A warmth spread through me that had nothing to do with nostalgia or family ties. It felt different, electric and forbidden. Then came a moment where silence stretched between us as we both paused in our tasks. In that stillness, something shifted further. It was as if we were standing on a precipice where one step could lead us into uncharted territory. "I have to admit," he began hesitantly, "I've always thought you were amazing." My heart raced at his words. It felt like stepping into murky waters without knowing how deep they went or what lay beneath the surface. "We're family," I reminded him softly but firmly. "Family doesn't always mean there aren't feelings involved," he replied quietly. Before I could respond or pull away from this conversation that threatened to unravel everything I held dear, thunder cracked outside like a warning bell ringing in my ears. The storm raged on outside while uncertainty brewed within me, a tempest of emotions battling against years of loyalty and commitment to Tom. My mind raced as Jack continued working beside me. Every brush of his arm against mine sent shivers down my spine despite my best efforts to remain composed. Just then, another flash of lightning illuminated his face briefly before plunging us back into darkness again. A fleeting glimpse into something deeper lingering between us both, just out of reach yet tantalizingly close. It was all too much. The weight of temptation pressed heavily against my chest while guilt gnawed at me from within like an insistent whisper reminding me who I belonged to. The life I had built alongside Tom felt suddenly fragile against this new reality emerging before me. With each passing moment spent alone together under candlelight shadows dancing across our faces, the lines between familial affection and something far more complicated blurred further until they became almost indistinguishable from one another entirely. A precarious balance hanging by mere threads woven through shared laughter and unspoken desires lingering beneath every word exchanged between us that night amidst stormy skies above Savannah's cobblestone streets below. As we finished preparing dinner in silence punctuated only by raindrops tapping against windowsills, I couldn't shake off how easily everything had changed since Jack arrived back home. How quickly familiarity morphed into something unexpected yet undeniable. How each glance exchanged felt charged with possibility waiting just beneath surface tensions simmering away quietly beneath layers built up over years spent together as family members rather than anything else entirely different altogether. Now threatening everything else standing between us both still holding strong despite everything else unraveling around them too slowly but surely day by day. As the storm passed, leaving behind a damp chill that clung to the air, I found myself standing in the kitchen, staring at the remnants of our half-finished project. The cabinets needed painting, and the countertops were still bare, but I had a different kind of work to do now. Jack had offered to help me with the renovations, and I seized that opportunity with both hands. My husband was working late again, and I felt a mix of excitement and guilt bubbling within me. I called Jack earlier that day under the guise of needing assistance. "Hey, Jack," I said, trying to keep my tone casual. "Do you think you could come over later? I could really use your help with the kitchen." "Sure thing, Maggie," he replied enthusiastically. "I'll be there around 6. With those words echoing in my mind, I prepared for his arrival. The air felt electric as I cleaned up the kitchen, moving around nervously as anticipation coursed through me. This time together felt like a ticking clock counting down to something inevitable. When Jack arrived, he walked in with a warm smile that lit up the dimly lit space. "Wow, this place has potential," he remarked, surveying our surroundings. His presence filled the room in a way that made my heart race, a feeling both thrilling and terrifying. We got to work immediately, chatting about mundane things while our hands moved instinctively over tools and materials scattered across the floor. The laughter came easily between us as we shared stories about childhood memories and family gatherings. Each laugh felt like a thread weaving us closer together, each shared glance ignited sparks that were hard to ignore. As we tackled one of the cabinets together, Jack paused mid-sentence. "Maggie," he began hesitantly, "I need to tell you something." My heart sank at his serious tone. I braced myself for whatever confession was about to come. "What is it?" He took a deep breath before continuing. "I've been feeling something for a while now, something more than friendship." The weight of his words hung in the air between us like an unspoken promise. A rush of warmth flooded through me as he spoke, an undeniable connection blooming right before my eyes. "Jack," my voice faltered as emotions swirled inside me like a tempest. Before I could process my thoughts or offer any response, laughter erupted between us again, this time sparked by an inside joke from our shared past. It was innocent enough until it wasn't. In that moment of shared joy and vulnerability, we kissed. The world outside faded away as everything else ceased to exist except for him and me. Our lips met softly at first before deepening into something more profound than either of us had anticipated. It was reckless yet exhilarating, a moment suspended in time where nothing else mattered but this unexpected connection we had forged. When we pulled away from each other, reality crashed back down around us like thunder after lightning strikes, a reminder of what lay ahead if we dared to continue down this path together. "What just happened?" Jack whispered breathlessly as if trying to comprehend our actions while still caught up in their intensity. I don't know," I stammered back nervously glancing toward the window where raindrops continued their relentless dance against glass panes, like my thoughts racing wildly within me trying desperately to make sense of it all. We stood there for what felt like an eternity, the silence thickening between us as uncertainty loomed larger than life itself until finally breaking free from its hold on us both by stepping back into our respective roles once more. Brother-in-law and devoted wife, two identities now forever altered by fleeting moments shared amidst chaos swirling just beyond reach outside these walls surrounding us. As evening turned into night and shadows crept across every surface around us like whispers threatening secrets left unspoken behind closed doors, I couldn't shake off how everything felt different since that kiss changed everything between us irrevocably, whether either wanted it or not anymore. "I should probably get going," Jack said, eventually breaking through my tangled thoughts, his voice tinged with regret despite attempts at masking it beneath layers built up over years spent navigating familial bonds carefully crafted over time. "Yeah, maybe you should," I replied reluctantly, though part of me yearned for him to stay just a little longer, to bask in this newfound closeness, even if only for another heartbeat longer before reality set back in again, reminding us both why we couldn't let ourselves cross those lines drawn so carefully throughout years spent living side by side without acknowledging anything beyond mere familial ties existing between brothers, now complicating everything else too much already. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving silence hanging heavy within these walls once more, a stark reminder of choices made today echoing endlessly throughout every corner, left untouched by what transpired earlier tonight, lingering long after he left. Afterward came reflection, thoughts spiraling wildly around, possibilities unfolding before me. Should I have let things go this far? What would happen if anyone found out? Would my husband sense something amiss? The questions multiplied endlessly, filling every crevice within my mind, seeking answers while battling against guilt creeping steadily closer, wrapping itself tightly around heartstrings, pulling taut against everything else held dear, forcing me into corners where decisions loomed larger than life itself, waiting patiently until finally confronted head-on without escape routes remaining open anymore. In moments like these, the bustling riverfront outside seemed distant despite its vibrancy contrasting sharply against turmoil brewing inside. Savannah's historic district remained alive, yet somehow disconnected from reality unfolding within my own home. A world divided between loyalty bound tightly by marriage vows sworn long ago versus desires emerging unexpectedly, threatening everything built upon foundations laid down carefully over years spent together alongside family members rather than anything resembling love, lost somewhere along the way, turning into something altogether different now, demanding attention too loudly, not ignored any longer. As night deepened further into darkness outside, I found myself staring out through glass once more, watching raindrops race against one another, trailing down surfaces, reflecting lights shimmering brightly across cobblestone streets below, illuminating paths leading nowhere familiar anymore, challenging every choice made thus far, forcing confrontations ahead looming large, readying themselves for inevitable reckoning, waiting just beyond horizon, waiting patiently until finally met face to face, staring consequences laid bare, no longer hidden from view. The rain continued to fall, a steady rhythm that matched the turmoil inside me. I stood in the kitchen, surrounded by the scent of fresh paint and sawdust, trying to focus on the task at hand. Jack was across from me, his hands deftly working on the cabinet door we had decided to fix together. The sound of tools clinking and wood being sanded filled the air, but my mind was elsewhere. Each glance at Jack sent a jolt through my heart. He was charming and easy to talk to, his laughter infectious. I had tried to push those feelings aside, reminding myself of my commitment to my husband. Yet here we were, alone again, with only the flickering light bulb above us illuminating our shared space. "Do you think this will hold?" Jack asked, stepping back to inspect our work. His eyes sparkled with mischief as he leaned closer, brushing against me. "Yes, it should be sturdy enough," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "We just need to make sure everything is aligned properly." As we worked side by side, I couldn't help but notice how close we were standing. The warmth radiating from him made it increasingly difficult to maintain any semblance of professionalism. My mind raced with thoughts of what could happen if I let this connection deepen further. Jack broke the silence again, a hint of vulnerability creeping into his tone. "You know," he began slowly, "I've been having doubts about my own relationship lately." He paused as if weighing his next words carefully. "I just don't know if it's what I want anymore." His admission hung in the air between us like an unspoken invitation. There was a weight in his gaze that pulled me closer despite my better judgment. The vulnerability in his voice mirrored my own hidden struggles, an emotional tug-of-war that threatened to unravel everything I thought I knew about myself. "I'm sorry to hear that," I managed to say softly, trying to keep my emotions in check while feeling an overwhelming urge to comfort him. Jack stepped even closer, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still as we locked eyes. My heart raced as he reached out tentatively, brushing a stray hair behind my ear before letting his fingers linger against my skin longer than necessary. In that charged moment, my breath caught. I knew boundaries were fading away like shadows at dusk. "Maggie," he whispered just before our lips met. The kiss was electric. It ignited something deep within me that had been dormant for far too long. It felt both exhilarating and terrifying all at once, a collision between desire and guilt that left me breathless. We pulled apart slowly, both aware of the gravity of what had just happened yet unwilling to fully acknowledge it aloud. The kitchen suddenly felt smaller, as if our actions had filled every corner with unspoken tension. "I shouldn't have done that," Jack murmured after a pause filled with uncertainty. "No," I replied quickly, shaking my head as if denying it could somehow erase the moment from existence. "We shouldn't have." But even as the words left my mouth, they felt hollow against the backdrop of our shared reality, the undeniable chemistry crackling between us like static electricity in the air. We resumed working on the cabinet in silence. However, every brush of our arms sent sparks dancing through me again and again. Each passing minute became an exercise in restraint as I fought against an overwhelming urge to give in completely, to abandon reason for passion. "Do you think your brother suspects anything?" Jack asked suddenly after several moments passed without conversation. I hesitated before answering. Doubt crept into my mind like vines overtaking an abandoned building. "I don't know, he's been busy with work lately." "Busy or distracted?" Jack pressed gently but firmly. "Maybe both?" My voice wavered slightly as unease washed over me once more, a reminder that we were treading dangerous waters together without life jackets or safety nets. Jack looked thoughtful for a moment before responding softly, "Just be careful." His warning hung heavily between us, yet deep down inside me lay another truth. This connection felt too profound to ignore entirely despite its consequences looming large overhead like dark clouds threatening rain once more. As we finished up for the day and cleaned our workspace together hand in hand, each touch lingering longer than necessary, I couldn't shake off thoughts about what lay ahead, waiting just beyond tomorrow's horizon, waiting patiently until finally met face to face, staring consequences laid bare, no longer hidden from view. Later that evening, after Jack left, and with dinner prepared for my husband who would soon return home, I found myself wandering through memories, replaying every detail from earlier, laughter shared over tools scattered across countertops, glances exchanged laden with meaning far beyond mere words spoken aloud, warmth radiating between two souls drawn together by forces unseen yet undeniably real. The door creaked open, announcing my husband's arrival, the familiar sound grounding me back into reality where responsibilities awaited alongside obligations sworn long ago, promising loyalty above all else. "Maggie," he called out cheerfully as he stepped inside, shaking off droplets from outside rain, his smile brightening up even dim corners around us, momentarily dispelling shadows lingering still within hearts unguarded. "Hey there. Dinner is almost ready." But beneath those simple words lay unacknowledged truths simmering beneath surface, waiting quietly until finally forced out into light, demanding attention too loudly not ignored any longer. As we sat down together sharing stories from our day, I couldn't shake off lingering thoughts about choices made earlier today, intertwining seamlessly alongside old commitments forged throughout years spent building lives intertwined within family bonds forged carefully over time. In moments when laughter erupted unexpectedly, filling spaces around us, it became harder than ever not thinking about what lay hidden beneath surface threatening everything built upon foundations laid down carefully over years spent together alongside family members rather than anything resembling love lost somewhere along way turning into something altogether different now demanding attention too loudly not ignored any longer. The afternoon light filtered through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over the newly painted cabinets. Jack and I stood shoulder to shoulder, reaching for a tool that had slipped between the counter and the wall. Our hands brushed against each other, a fleeting contact that sent an unexpected jolt through me. I could feel the weight of our unspoken connection hanging in the air, thickening the atmosphere around us. "Do you think this will hold?" Jack asked, his voice low as he adjusted the cabinet door. He looked over at me, his eyes searching mine for an answer. My heart raced. I was acutely aware of how close we were standing. "Should be fine," I replied, trying to sound casual despite the turmoil inside me. "Just needs a bit of tightening." As we worked together, there was an intimacy in our movements that felt both natural and wrong. Each shared glance seemed to deepen our bond, each laugh echoed with a hint of something more profound than mere friendship. The guilt gnawed at me, but it was overshadowed by an undeniable pull toward him. "I'm glad you asked for my help," he said suddenly, leaning closer as he handed me a screwdriver. "I don't think I could have managed this alone." There was sincerity in his tone that made my heart ache. "Me too," I said softly, forcing myself to focus on the task at hand instead of the man beside me. But as we tightened screws and adjusted hinges, it became increasingly difficult to ignore the emotions swirling within me. The evening crept in quietly, shadows danced across the walls as daylight faded into dusk. We took a break from our work, sitting at the kitchen table amidst scattered tools and paint cans. The conversation flowed easily between us, our hopes for the future, memories from childhood, and with each passing moment, I felt myself opening up more than I intended. "I've been thinking about what you said earlier," Jack admitted after a long pause. "About family loyalty, sometimes it feels like it's suffocating." His gaze bore into mine with intensity. I nodded slowly, his words resonated deeply within me. "It does," I replied carefully. "But it's complicated." He leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair as if trying to clear his thoughts. "What if it didn't have to be?" he challenged gently, eyes glinting with something unspoken. I held my breath for a moment. There was an electric tension in the air between us that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. The clock ticked loudly in the silence that followed, amplifying my racing heartbeats. Then he reached across the table and took my hand in his, a simple gesture that sent shivers down my spine. "Maggie," he said softly, "I can't pretend anymore." The world outside faded away as we sat there locked in each other's gaze, an invisible thread pulling us closer together despite everything holding us apart. We spent the night together, came out before I could stop myself, the words hung heavy between us like an unbreakable bond forged from our shared secrets and desires. The moment stretched on until Jack broke into a smile that lit up his face. It was infectious and disarming all at once. "I've wanted this for so long," he confessed quietly. My heart raced at those words. My mind battled against every reason why this shouldn't happen while my body craved more of him than just fleeting touches or stolen glances. It felt wrong yet so achingly right all at once. Confusion swirled around me like fog enveloping everything familiar until only Jack remained clear against its backdrop. We spent hours talking late into the night, sharing stories woven with laughter yet tinged with vulnerability. A delicate dance of emotions revealing layers long hidden beneath everyday life's surface where family ties intertwined seamlessly alongside unfulfilled desires simmering just below consciousness waiting patiently for release. As midnight approached and exhaustion began creeping in despite our fervent discussions about everything from mundane chores to dreams unspoken, I felt an overwhelming urge to close that distance between us once again, a magnetic pull urging me forward until finally surrendering. In those quiet moments wrapped up together on my kitchen floor surrounded by remnants of paint splatters and half-finished projects, I let go of all reservations holding me back, allowing emotions long buried rise up within like tides crashing against shores reclaiming lost ground washed away by time. Eventually we fell asleep nestled against one another, a fragile peace settling around us as dreams mingled with reality, blurring lines drawn carefully throughout years spent building lives intertwined within family bonds forged carefully over time. But morning light would soon break through windows, ushering forth consequences looming large on horizon, threatening everything built upon foundations laid down carefully over years spent together alongside family members rather than anything resembling love lost somewhere a long way, turning into something altogether different now, demanding attention too loudly not ignored any longer. The sunlight streaming through the kitchen window illuminated the remnants of our shared night, casting long shadows across the room. I stood at the sink, washing dishes, my mind racing with thoughts of what had transpired. The warmth of Jack's presence lingered in the air, a reminder of both comfort and chaos. Each clink of porcelain against porcelain felt like a countdown to an inevitable confrontation. The door creaked open, and I turned to see my husband walking in, his face lit with a smile that felt too bright for the weight on my shoulders. He had taken time off work to spend more time with us, and while I should have been grateful, anxiety twisted in my stomach. "Morning, Maggie," he called out cheerfully. "I thought we could have breakfast together as a family." "Sounds good," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. As he moved about the kitchen, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to unravel. Jack was still asleep in the guest room, blissfully unaware of the tension brewing beneath our roof. The thought made me anxious. I needed to talk to him before my husband discovered anything. After breakfast, my husband suggested we all take a stroll along River Street. "It's such a beautiful day," he said, enthusiasm pouring from him like sunshine. "We can grab some coffee and enjoy the sights." The riverfront was bustling with life, tourists mingling with locals amid colorful shops and cafes. As we walked together, laughter echoed around us, families enjoyed ice cream while couples strolled hand in hand. Yet beneath this vibrant facade lay an undercurrent of dread swirling within me. Jack joined us after a few moments, his casual demeanor masking an intensity that only I could sense. He leaned closer to me while my husband chatted excitedly about his plans for the weekend. "We need to talk," he whispered urgently. I nodded subtly but felt trapped in this charade of normalcy. My heart raced as we continued our walk along cobblestone streets lined with magnolias swaying gently in the breeze. Later that afternoon, when we returned home, Jack pulled me aside into the kitchen while my husband settled on the couch with a book. "Maggie," he said quietly but firmly, "we can't keep doing this." "Doing what?" I asked defensively, though I knew exactly what he meant. "This, whatever it is between us." His gaze bore into mine with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. I glanced towards the living room where my husband sat, unaware of our conversation. "You know it's complicated," I replied softly. "We're risking everything," Jack insisted. "Your marriage, your family. What are you going to do?" His words hung heavily in the air between us as if they were tangible objects threatening to suffocate me. The truth was becoming harder to ignore. My feelings for him were growing deeper every day. "I don't know," I admitted reluctantly. Just then, there was a loud knock at the door that startled us both. My heart raced as we quickly separated. It felt like being caught red-handed even though nothing explicit had happened since that night together. My husband opened the door to find one of our neighbors standing there with an awkward smile plastered on his face. "Hey there. Just wanted to drop by and say hello." I forced a smile as they exchanged pleasantries while I stood frozen nearby, my mind racing with thoughts about what might have just been captured on their security camera outside without either of them knowing its significance. Once our neighbor left after brief small talk about local happenings and neighborhood gossip, I turned back toward Jack, who looked equally unsettled by this unexpected interruption. "We need more time together," Jack said urgently before glancing towards where my husband had retreated back into his book again. "Not right now," I insisted firmly but quietly, my voice barely above a whisper yet laced with urgency as well as fear over what could happen next if we continued down this path without consideration for consequences looming large above us both like storm clouds gathering on horizon threatening everything built carefully over years spent nurturing relationships forged through loyalty rather than desire lost somewhere along way. As dusk settled over Savannah's historic district, casting long shadows against brick walls painted softly by fading sunlight filtering through leaves overhead, dinner preparations began under dim kitchen lights, creating an atmosphere thick with tension palpable enough even amidst aromas wafting from pots simmering on stove nearby, drawing attention away momentarily from turmoil brewing within hearts surrounding them all. My husband entered once more, announcing dinner was ready just as Jack slipped out momentarily, saying he needed something from his car parked outside, the distraction providing brief reprieve, allowing me time alone again for contemplation regarding choices made recently, weighing heavily upon conscience, now battling against loyalty towards family versus longing for something entirely different yet equally compelling, drawing attention away from reality faced here today. Settling into our seats around table adorned simply yet lovingly prepared by hands familiar over years spent sharing meals together. Laughter erupted easily among us, filling space occupied previously only by silence, echoing loudly within minds battling conflicting emotions, spilling forth unexpectedly during moments shared under roof once considered safe haven, now transformed into battleground, torn between love lost somewhere along way versus newfound connection, igniting passions previously dormant yet undeniable, now demanding acknowledgement, too loudly not ignored any longer. As conversation flowed smoothly among us, discussing trivial matters surrounding work schedules and upcoming family gatherings planned ahead, hints slipped through cracks revealing unspoken truths lurking just beneath surface, waiting patiently for opportune moment strike, leaving behind wreckage ultimately unforeseen. My husband turned towards me suddenly, asking casually if everything was all right. His gaze searching mine, earnestly seeking reassurance, instead finding uncertainty reflected back at him, instead evoking concern growing deeper within him, each passing moment spent together now feeling increasingly strained ever since Jack entered, picture shifting dynamics irrevocably altering course laid down carefully over years spent nurturing bonds forged through loyalty rather than desire lost somewhere along way, turning into something altogether different, demanding attention too loudly not ignored any longer. Jack returned shortly thereafter, joining us at table, trying hard maintain composure despite underlying tension palpable enough even amidst laughter shared among friends, yet somehow feeling wrong amidst backdrop unfolding right before eyes, watching helplessly unable intervene without risking everything already precariously balanced upon edge, waiting patiently for final push send, cascading downward, spiraling beyond control, leaving behind wreckage ultimately unforeseen. After dinner concluded, leaving remnants scattered across table awaiting cleanup. Whispers echoed throughout house while darkness enveloped surroundings outside, creating atmosphere charged, electricity crackling through air, thickening tension building ever stronger, threatening unravel everything built upon foundations laid down carefully over years spent nurturing relationships forged through loyalty rather than desire lost somewhere along way, turning into something altogether different, demanding attention too loudly not ignored any longer. The evening settled into an uneasy silence after dinner, the remnants of our meal lingering on the table like ghosts of conversations that felt too light for the heaviness in the air. Jack's laughter echoed in my ears, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside me. My husband, oblivious to the tension, shared stories with Jack, but I could hardly focus on their words. Each smile I forced felt like a betrayal. As I cleared the table, I caught Jack's eye across the room. His gaze held a mixture of longing and frustration that mirrored my own feelings. The weight of our secret pressed down on me like a heavy blanket, suffocating yet impossible to shake off. Jack had become a constant presence in my life, his charm and charisma drawing me in while simultaneously pushing me toward an abyss I was terrified to explore. Do you need help with those? Jack asked, stepping closer as I stacked dishes precariously in my arms. No, I've got it, I replied too quickly, avoiding his gaze as I moved toward the sink. The rhythm of water splashing against porcelain was oddly soothing but did nothing to quell the storm within. Really? Because it looks like you could use a hand, he teased gently. I turned to face him, unable to mask my frustration any longer. Jack, please. We can't keep doing this. My voice was barely above a whisper. He stepped closer still, his presence overwhelming. Maggie, you have to choose. This, whatever this is, can't go on forever. His words hung between us like a challenge. The flickering kitchen light cast shadows across his face, highlighting both his sincerity and desperation. My heart raced as I considered what he was asking of me, a choice between loyalty and desire. Before I could respond, my husband called from the living room, oblivious to our silent exchange. Maggie. Come join us. I took a deep breath and forced a smile back onto my face before walking into the living room where they were now discussing plans for an upcoming family gathering. As they talked about our relatives' antics and childhood memories, I felt increasingly like an outsider in my own home. Are you okay? My husband's voice broke through my thoughts as he glanced at me with concern. Yes. Just tired from all that cooking, I replied too quickly again. Jack shot me a knowing look that made my heart skip a beat, a reminder of what lay just beneath the surface of our interactions. The evening dragged on with laughter and stories interspersed with glances exchanged between Jack and me that spoke volumes more than words ever could. With each passing moment, the walls around my heart began to crumble further under the weight of unspoken feelings. Later that night, after my husband had gone to bed and silence enveloped our home once more, I found myself standing by the window staring out into the darkness outside, a stark contrast to the warmth inside that suddenly felt stifling. Jack appeared beside me without making a sound. His presence was both comforting and electric all at once. You shouldn't be alone right now, he said softly. I'm fine, I replied automatically even though every fiber of my being craved his closeness. Maggie, his voice trailed off as he searched for words that seemed stuck somewhere between friendship and something far deeper. I can't keep pretending everything is okay when it's not. I turned to face him fully then. There was no hiding anymore from what had been growing between us like wildfire consuming everything in its path. What do you want from me? I want you to be happy, he admitted quietly but firmly as if stating something undeniable yet fraught with consequences. Happy? Or free? The question slipped out before I could stop myself. His eyes darkened slightly at my challenge. There was no denying how much we both understood what this meant. The stakes were rising higher than either of us anticipated. Just then, there was a knock at the door, a disruption that shattered our moment entirely. We both jumped slightly at the unexpected sound breaking through our charged atmosphere. Who could that be? Jack murmured while glancing toward the door warily. I don't know, I answered hesitantly as dread pooled in my stomach at who might be visiting us so late at night. As I approached cautiously and opened it slightly ajar, relief washed over me when I saw it was only an old friend from down the street, someone who had often joined us for casual gatherings in happier times before everything became so complicated. Maggie. Sorry for dropping by unannounced, she exclaimed cheerfully but paused when she noticed Jack standing just behind me with an unreadable expression on his face. Oh. Hello there. She added awkwardly while glancing back at me for reassurance as if sensing something amiss without knowing exactly what it was stirring beneath surface-level pleasantries exchanged among friends long accustomed to one another's lives intertwined over years spent together sharing laughter around dinner tables now feeling strained under weight hidden away from view. Hey. Nice surprise. I managed weakly while trying hard not let panic seep through cracks formed around edges where secrets threatened spill out into open air unbidden. Jack stepped forward slightly, then offering her one of those charming smiles capable disarming even most skeptical hearts. However, tonight it felt more forced than genuine. An attempt masked tension lingering thick enough cut through silence filling space surrounding us three standing together amidst unspoken truths hovering just beyond reach waiting patiently for right moment reveal themselves fully. "So what brings you here?" he asked casually, attempting maintain normalcy despite unmistakable strain evident within atmosphere surrounding us all now thickening further each passing second drawing attention unwanted toward dynamics unfolding quietly just beneath surface. She began recounting tales from her day filled with mundane details meant distract from reality pressing down upon us all. But even her cheerful chatter couldn't completely erase shadows lurking nearby waiting ready pounce upon unsuspecting moments when least expected. Yet despite efforts maintain facade intact cracks began showing through edges revealing glimpses hidden truths threatening unravel everything built upon foundations laid carefully over years spent nurturing relationships forged through loyalty rather than desire lost. Somewhere along way turning into something altogether different demanding attention too loudly not ignored any longer. And as laughter echoed momentarily relieving pressure building up inside room, my mind raced ahead wondering how long we could keep this up before someone noticed something wasn't quite right anymore. The tension hung thick in the air as I maneuvered through the kitchen, trying to keep my composure. Jack's confession echoed in my mind, each word a reminder of the precarious position I found myself in. My husband was in the living room, oblivious to the emotional storm brewing just a few feet away. I could hear him laughing with Jack, their voices mingling like an old song that brought back memories I was trying so hard to suppress. I busied myself with chopping vegetables, hoping the rhythmic sound would drown out my thoughts. The knife met the cutting board with a steady thud, but even that couldn't distract me from Jack's gaze lingering on me during dinner preparations. Each glance felt like a silent conversation filled with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. "Maggie, you okay?" My husband's voice broke through my reverie, pulling me back into the moment. He stood at the doorway, concern etched on his face. "Just lost in thought," I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than genuine warmth. Jack stepped closer, his presence both comforting and unnerving. "Need any help?" he asked casually, but there was an intensity in his eyes that made my heart race. "No, I've got it," I said quickly, turning back to my task. The last thing I needed was for him to step into my space and stir feelings I was desperately trying to quell. As dinner progressed, laughter filled the room again, this time a little too loud, too forced. My husband shared stories from work while Jack chimed in with playful banter. Yet beneath it all lay an undercurrent of something darker, an unacknowledged tension that threatened to bubble over. "Jack," my husband said suddenly after swallowing a bite of food. "You should come over more often. It's nice having you around." I caught Jack's eye across the table. He smiled softly, but there was something else there, a flicker of longing that made my stomach twist uncomfortably. "Yeah," Jack agreed lightly, though his tone lacked enthusiasm. "I'd love that." The conversation shifted once more as we finished dinner and moved into the living room for coffee. My husband settled on the couch while Jack leaned against the wall near me, arms crossed casually yet radiating an energy that felt electric. "Can we talk?" he whispered when our eyes met briefly. I hesitated but nodded slightly. We both knew this wasn't just about coffee or casual conversation anymore. Once my husband turned his attention to his phone in another room, Jack stepped closer again. "Maggie," he said quietly, almost pleadingly. "I can't keep pretending everything is fine." "Jack," my voice trailed off as uncertainty washed over me. The weight of our secret loomed larger than ever before. "I love you," he confessed suddenly, desperation spilling from his lips like a dam breaking free of its constraints. Those 3 words hung between us like an uninvited guest at our gathering, a truth both beautiful and terrifying at once. "I can't," I started but felt paralyzed by fear and guilt swirling within me. "Maggie." My husband called from across the house just then, a reminder of reality crashing down around us with unforgiving force. "I have to go," I whispered urgently before retreating toward where my husband waited. Dinner ended soon after. We cleared dishes together while Jack remained quiet, a stark contrast to earlier moments filled with laughter and connection. As night fell over Savannah, shadows danced along walls illuminated only by soft light filtering through windows, the city outside alive with sounds yet somehow distant from what transpired within these walls. Later that evening, while lying beside my husband in bed, his breathing steady and calm, I stared into darkness contemplating choices made and those still looming ahead like storm clouds gathering on the horizon threatening rain without respite. In those quiet moments alone with my thoughts came whispers of doubt. Could love truly exist alongside loyalty? Could one ever truly be whole when torn between two worlds? The next day unfolded uneventfully until a chance encounter at River Street sent ripples through our carefully constructed facade. Friends had gathered for lunch outside one of those quaint cafes overlooking water bustling below. Laughter floated through air, mingling scents of food wafting tantalizingly close by, inviting indulgence amidst chaos swirling within me instead. As we settled into our seats at one of those outdoor tables, my heart raced seeing familiar faces approach us, Jane and Tom, their smiles wide yet eyes glimmering with curiosity masked beneath friendly banter exchanged among us all. "Maggie. It's been ages. How are you?" Jane beamed as she hugged me tightly, a gesture meant to convey warmth yet sending shivers down spine as memories flooded back unbidden, of stolen moments shared between myself and her brother. "Great. Just busy with home renovations," I managed while glancing sideways at Jack, who seemed lost somewhere between amusement and apprehension watching interactions unfold before him. "Oh. We heard about your kitchen project. Sounds exciting." Tom chimed in enthusiastically before leaning closer toward Jack, teasingly adding, "You're not letting her do all this work alone, are you?" Laughter erupted around table, but beneath surface bubbled something darker, an awareness creeping into conversations giving way gossip about brothers' dynamics swirling without any regard for consequences looming large. "Of course not. Just lending a hand now and then," Jack replied smoothly despite tension evident in his posture, an uneasy dance between maintaining appearances while grappling emotions threatening break free. As lunch continued amidst laughter shared among friends, the air grew thick again, suffocating every breath taken until finally parting ways left behind echoes lingering long after farewells spoken. Returning home felt different somehow, as if walls closing tighter around secrets held too closely now threatening exposed truths hidden far too long. That evening would hold more than just routine chores or family dinners. It would demand reckoning, confronting reality head-on, leaving no room left for denial anymore. The air in the kitchen felt heavy with unspoken words as I stood at the counter, my hands trembling slightly while preparing dinner. Jack had left just moments ago, his lingering presence still echoing in the silence. I could almost hear the faint sound of his laughter, a stark contrast to the weight pressing down on my chest. My husband, Tom, was due home any minute, and I could already sense the tension building between us. As I stirred the pot on the stove, my thoughts drifted back to that stolen kiss, a moment that seemed to change everything. It had started innocently enough, a simple touch of hands while reaching for the same tool during our kitchen renovations. But it had quickly escalated into something far more complicated and dangerous. The memory of our lips meeting sent a shiver down my spine, igniting a mix of excitement and dread within me. Tom walked through the door just as I was lost in thought, his tired smile brightening the dimly lit room. "Hey there," he said, dropping his briefcase by the door. "Smells great." "Thanks," I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than genuine joy. The guilt was suffocating. How could I pretend everything was normal when my heart was torn in two? He moved closer, wrapping his arms around me from behind and resting his chin on my shoulder. "I've missed you," he whispered softly. The warmth of his body contrasted sharply with my internal turmoil. "Missed you too," I managed to say, though every word felt like a betrayal of what had transpired with Jack. Dinner passed in an awkward silence punctuated by small talk about work and plans for the weekend. Tom seemed oblivious to the storm brewing beneath my calm exterior, but every question he asked felt like a reminder of what I was hiding. "Have you spoken to Jack lately?" he asked casually between bites. "Not really," I replied too quickly. "He's been busy with his own projects." A lie that tasted bitter on my tongue. Tom nodded thoughtfully but didn't press further. Instead, he shared stories about his day at work, unaware that each tale only deepened my sense of isolation. After dinner, as we cleaned up together, I caught sight of our neighbor's house across the street. A flicker of movement caught my attention, a shadow passing by their window, and an unsettling feeling washed over me. What if they had seen something? The thought gnawed at me as if it were a secret waiting to be exposed. Later that night, as we settled onto the couch together to watch television, Tom leaned back against me comfortably while flipping through channels. But all I could think about was Jack, his easy laugh and those moments we shared alone in our chaotic kitchen. "Are you okay?" Tom asked suddenly, glancing at me with concern etched on his face. "Yeah," I lied again. "Just tired." He nodded but didn't seem convinced. There was an unspoken tension hanging between us like an invisible thread ready to snap at any moment. As bedtime approached and we climbed into bed together, sleep eluded me completely. My mind raced with thoughts of Jack and what our connection meant for both him and me. The uncertainty felt like a weight pressing down on my chest, one that threatened to suffocate me if left unchecked. In those quiet hours alone with my thoughts, clarity began to emerge amidst the chaos swirling around me. This couldn't continue without consequences, something had to give sooner or later. The next morning brought no respite from my turmoil as Tom prepared for another long day at work while I tried desperately to maintain some semblance of normalcy in our routine life together. He kissed me goodbye before leaving, a simple gesture filled with love yet tainted by guilt on my part. Once he was gone, solitude enveloped me again like an old friend. It offered both comfort and fear, the peace allowing space for reflection while simultaneously amplifying every doubt lurking in shadows cast by recent events. I picked up my phone instinctively searching for Jack's number but hesitated before dialing. What would it even say? The conversation would inevitably lead back down paths fraught with danger, paths better left unexplored if only for now. Just then came an unexpected knock at the door, jarring enough that it sent jolts through me as anxiety surged forward once more, demanding attention immediately rather than later when perhaps circumstances might change favorably instead. Opening it revealed a familiar face. Our neighbor Mrs. Collins stood there holding her phone out toward me with urgency written all over her features, an expression that sent chills racing through every nerve ending within seconds flat. "Maggie," she said breathlessly before continuing without pause or hesitation, "you need to see this." I glanced down at her phone screen where video footage played, a grainy clip showing snippets captured from her security camera directly facing our home. My heart sank as realization dawned upon me. There it was, the moment Jack and I shared that fateful kiss, now immortalized forever beyond mere memory into something tangible, threatening exposure looming dangerously close. "What is this?" Words escaped from between trembling lips, barely audible over pounding heartbeats echoing loudly within ears straining against reality unfolding right before eyes wide open, unable to look away despite desperate urge urging retreat instead. Mrs. Collins looked pained yet resolute in her determination, not just for herself but also perhaps for others caught in crossfire surrounding complicated relationships formed beneath surface layers hiding truths buried deep beneath daily routines. "I didn't mean for you to find out this way," she murmured softly, almost apologetically, though intentions remained unclear regarding motivations behind sharing such information now rather than later when perhaps time might have healed wounds inflicted unseen until today. As she scrolled through clips revealing intimate moments shared between two people who should have never crossed lines drawn firmly separating loyalty from desire, I felt panic rising within, threatening overwhelm. Everything else surrounding life built carefully brick by brick over years spent nurturing bonds forged strong enough weather storms even when faced adversity head-on together. But now those very foundations threatened collapse under weighty burdens carried too long hidden away, buried beneath layers upon layers built carefully, protecting fragile hearts from inevitable truths, waiting patiently until moments arrived when choices made would decide fates, forever altering lives entwined, irrevocably intertwined, regardless outcome looming ahead, uncertain yet undeniable nonetheless.